Hi everybody, I'm Pastor Andy. I just wanted to start making Wednesday videos again for all of you. I miss doing them. When life gets busy, it's one of those things that gets left behind. But I'm back with more Wednesday videos consistently because we're going to have more of a structure this time around. I'd like to go through the book Searching for Sunday with you all, if at all possible. If you haven't read this book, I recommend it. If you'd like to follow along, let me know. I'll get you a copy. Um, but this is a dynamite book. It's called Searching for Sunday by Rachel Held Evans, and the subtitle is Loving, Leaving, and Finding the Church. So I recorded this video about 3/4 of the way through before I realized I had no audio. So this is my second go around at recording it, so hopefully I have some better luck this time. But I picked this book because I think it's a dynamite read. I really respect Rachel Held Evans and her perspective. It's not one that I see very often in Christian nonfiction writers. So I appreciate her perspective. I don't think I read enough women authors. So it's overall it's a great book, and I enjoy it quite a bit. So I thought I would share it with you. We'll talk more about who Rachel Held Evans was and her what she as an author was like in another video down the line. But we're just going to talk about the first two chapters today. So the book starts with the chapter one is almost like a preamble or a prefix to chapter two, but chapter one talks about water and the position that the ancient peoples found themselves in when dealing with water. As agricultural societies, like you'd find in the pages of scripture, these societies were very dependent on water and just the right amount of water, because too much water could ruin crops and drown a village and wreak havoc and disaster, where not enough water could cause droughts and it could cause crop shortages, and it could cause rivers to stop flowing, which would stop boats from flowing, which would prevent commerce from taking place. Um, Water was so important in just the right quantities that people relied upon it to be just right, and people had so little say and so little um, they had so little control over that element of their lives, that water was essential to their survival in just the right quantities. Um, but it was out of their hands for the most part of how they were able to regulate that. And then she fast forward to today, right? Like, oh, they were so dependent on forces outside their control. But for us, when there are floods, we see the devastation that causes. When there are droughts, we see the wildfires that result as well. When we are talking about what's going on right now in Texas, what people there are suffering through, they're not without water, but in many cases the pipes have frozen and burst, and they turn on their sink and or their spigot, and absolutely nothing comes out. We are definitely dependent upon water and upon outside forces, more so than we would have the stomach to agree to right off the bat. But so she talks about water. That first chapter is about water, and how God separated the waters above and the waters below, and just kind of the creation story, how as it relates to water. And then she goes into the second chapter, which is about baptism. She talks about other Christian traditions than her own and how they did baptism, how some uh, Christian traditions baptize infants, some wait until children or adults are old enough to make that decision for themselves, and then they baptize. Some dunk and submerge underneath the water, some sprinkle, some will pour. It is uh, based on tradition, based on where you come from, where you were raised. And she talks about her baptism and how she wishes she could take it back and do it over again. That she, well, at one point had wished she could take it back and do it over again. That how she was baptized, the community she was baptized in, the extenuating circumstances around it, maybe even the reasoning behind her baptism. She wishes she could get a do-over and do it better, do it in such a way that that she could orchestrate more of the fine details of it to make it the story she would like it to be. And I get that. I like things in my life to be customizable. Um, The desk I'm working on right now is customized to the nines. There's no desk like this anywhere because it's customized to just how I like it. My phone is customized with all the settings that are just how I like it. We all have our own specific coffee orders, don't we? How we take our coffee, customized just to our tastes. We like things our way, don't we? So when we look at the story of, at least when Rachel Held Evans looks at the story of her baptism, there are things she wishes she could change. I feel the same way. I was baptized at 17 or 18 years old. I was in high school. I wanted to go to school to be a pastor. And the school I was going to, there was a scholarship I was eligible for. And that scholarship would have helped me pay for a lot of school. But I had to be a member at my church, like an official on the books member, in order to receive the scholarship. And I wasn't able to be a member until I was also baptized. So I was told, we got to quick fast get you baptized so you can get this scholarship. And I remember thinking the whole time, this feels so cheap. I feel like I'm getting baptized for the money of it. I feel like, and they're like, oh, well, you love Jesus. You're going to school to be a pastor. Like, you're not faking it. You're not phoning it in. There's nothing wrong with it. But I felt a little uncomfortable by it, that I was baptized because there was a great financial reason for me to be baptized. And it, even to this day, feels a little gross that that's the reason I was baptized. She talks about how she appealed to another pastor and asked, could you just rebaptize me? Do it again so that I have a different story to tell. She talks about she wants to metaphorically wring the baptism from her hair and from her clothes and blot that experience out of her personal history. And the pastor she talks to says, no, that's not how any of this works. You don't get baptized twice. And she talks about that to say that you don't get to blot out the experiences that don't tell the story that you like. We don't get to edit our story in post-production so that it sounds better. I wish we did. There's some things I would certainly edit out of my story. There are things I would edit into my story. Whether it's my Christian journey or whether it's just, I mean, I guess everything is connected and everything is spiritual and everything is part of my life. And the spiritual side isn't compartmentalized from the rest of my life. So there are things I wish I could take out and add in and fix and tweak and make just so. But that's not how it is. Just to read a passage here from the end of chapter 2. She talks about being baptized and how it wasn't exactly what she expected. She says, I was baptized by my father and by my mother, by Pastor George, by my Sunday school teachers, by my sister, by that used car salesman who sang the sauntering gospel version of the old rugged cross every Easter, by the boy who put boogers in my hair, by the little girl in the wheelchair who couldn't speak. I was baptized by Alabama, Reaganomics, by evangelicalism, by Parkway Christian Academy, and by the Bible Chapel. I was baptized by Martin Luther King Jr. and George Wallace and Billy Graham. I was baptized by the sort of people who turned fish stories into sermons and listened to Rush Limbaugh and sometimes loved me the wrong way. I was baptized by water and by spirit and by the strange bundle of atoms and genes and experiences God has assembled, delighted in an act of absurd mercy named beloved. We are loved by God. The baptism is not a magical event that necessarily creates a substantive change in us necessarily, but it is the naming of who we are. It's the acknowledging that we are beloved by God. And yeah, it might not be the way we want it to be done. I would love to go back and do my baptism over again because I feel like it was done quick, fast, hastily for bureaucratic reasons. But you don't get to blot out that part of your story. You don't get to blot out your story. You are a child of God who understands that this is a process and that we're all working toward the process. So I don't mean to be long-winded on the subject, but I definitely, I get it. I want to change things sometimes. I look back and think, oh, that was messy. That was frustrating. That isn't a great story necessarily. I wish I could do it better or different or whatever. But every step that we take, every moment on our journey gets us to the next point. We had our membership class today. Wednesday the 24th is the day today. We had our membership meeting today. I got to sit with the 7 people who have expressed interest in being members. And I will do another class in the next couple of weeks, and I think that we'll have a couple more people. But we talked about journey and how everybody who was thinking about becoming a member has been part of another faith group at one time. And that faith group might not have gone the way you wanted it to go with that last faith group. It may not have ended the way you wanted. It might not have been the way you wanted up and down throughout your time there. But we're all on a spiritual journey. We're all moving through our lives, and we are all growing in Christ, little by little. And that might mean that at this particular stage of these 7 people's journey, it has brought them to Orchard Park Community Church. And for that, I am humbled and grateful, and I feel the weight of that responsibility that I have to them, and how appreciative I am for them trusting me with some of their spiritual growth and development going forward for a little while. It might mean that Orchard Park Community Church is somebody's place where they are growing in their faith for this time in their life, for this season, this part of their journey, and then they need to move on to the next stage down the line. And to them, I understand that too. But I hope that our experiences with each other, because that's what this is, right? A church is not a group. It's not an organization. It's not a building. It's people. It's a group of people. So when we are talking about things that we want to undo and experiences we've had and organizations we've been a part of, it's not necessarily about changing all of these retroactively to the way we'd want them to be. It's we are moved through this process of our lives by that eclectic list that she mentioned, by, Billy Graham and Martin Luther King and Reaganomics and evangelicalism and people who listen to Rush Limbaugh and all of these different things. We are often the product of our environments, but we're on a faith journey, and God moves us from where we are to where we need to be over time. So I am feeling the weight of that today, just having talked to the new members who are going to be joining our church, but also because it's so important that we don't just yada, yada, yada over our past experiences, that we don't just pretend they didn't happen, or we don't rewrite them to be what we want them to be, but we are even if they were bad, that we allow ourselves to be grateful for them because they have brought us to this point on our journey with Christ. And to be at this point where you are right now is nothing shy of a blessing. So thank you for listening to me ramble. I feel like I hope I didn't lose the thread there at any point in talking. This is all off the top of my head. I'm not operating off of any notes, as probably is evident by my rambling. But thank you so much for tuning into these Wednesday videos. And I will see you on Sunday morning, and I'll see you next week as we'll do another chapter or 2 of Searching for Sunday. Again, let me know if you want the book. I'll get you one. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.